Well, hello everybody. Uh this year is just this year is something. Um Especially this December. Like I can't really think of a December where this much just insane stuff has happened in such a short period of time. I mean, you know what they say, nothing ever happens until the stuff that happens happens. That's like poetry, they rhyme. Um Like maybe the most like there's a lot of crazy stuff today. Maybe the single most insane thing today is that the Stalker 2 patch came out. And um the Stalker 2 patch was 111 gigabytes. I've never seen a patch that big. Like that is, I think, crazier than the attempted Fuentes assassination, than I don't know. It's just okay. By the way, just two quick updates before we get into this. I will be going to Ontario for the next week and a bit to spend Christmas with my family. So I'll probably still be doing videos periodically, but I don't know how often. I probably won't be streaming. So just letting you know about that. So that is number one. Number two, I'll have to briefly leave at one point during my stream, just because the person who is going to look after my cat while I'm away um is going to come by and pick up the key. So that's just it. Uh I just bringing Rain home with me or back to Ontario with me is just too much trouble. It's a pain at the airport, and yeah, and I don't think Rain really likes going on planes. I have to like get her drugged up, and then she's fucked up for like the next day or so. And Ontario with me, it's easier to just get somebody to come by and take a look at her. So, uh, okay, that's fine. Okay, so Fuentes, they attempted to assassinate him. This dude. Uh, we'll start off with that as kind of the leading story for today because of just how fucking crazy this whole thing is. Why does this always default to non-dark mode? Whatever. It is what it is, I guess. Okay. So, so apparently some dude pulled up out front, came to Nick's house. He was like a spree killer who I think killed like three people earlier in the day. We've got footage of it. Let's watch the footage. Okay, I think there's another one. This is this is crazy.
Yo, Nick.
Yeah, yeah, Nick was apparently streaming when the guy came to the door. So I guess firstly, just I don't know, like what I'm supposed to say in this situation beyond the fact that it's fucked. I obviously don't endorse this. I don't like Fuentes, but I don't want crazy people to come to his door and try to fuck with him. Um, I don't know. I'm glad the police apparently killed this asshole, so he's off the streets, which I think is good for society, as he seems to be some kind of deranged psychopath. But yeah, no, the guy okay, so let's read through this thread. But like no, I don't like Fuentes, but I'm glad that he didn't open the door. I don't want the guy to die. Like especially with this fucking weirdo. Like look at this meme lord. He's got like this helmet on. I don't know. Does he think he's in Terminator or something? So, okay. Last night, okay, an armed killer made an attempt on my life at home. One second. Which was recently doxxed on this platform. The gunman carried a pistol, crossbow, and incendiary devices. I believe that he intended to kill me. I think that's a pretty fair guess. I mean, old lady is once again a bit questionable. But yeah, the dude with the pistol and the crossbow, yeah, he's probably tried to kill you, Nick. I'm not gonna disagree on that one. Um, he is dead now. I am okay. According to the police, the would-be assassin committed a triple homicide in southern Illinois early yesterday before he arrived at my doorstep with his pistol drawn, calling my name. Tragically, the gunman broke into a neighbor's home to evade police and killed two of their dogs. While heartbreaking, it could have been so unimaginably worse. God have mercy. Doxing is not a game. This nihilistic lynch mob behavior must end before anyone else is killed. What the fuck? Um, like, what? I don't know. This is like once again, I don't really know what to add to this. Like beyond the fact that it's fucked. Like now, some people have said that maybe like this was not primarily like about him, like initially at least, and because it doesn't seem like he was the initial target, considering this dude killed a bunch of other people. But that's kind of the problem. Like this is I'm kind of surprised that this stuff doesn't happen more often. Like when you're posting that like Trump is Hitler or Fuentes is Hitler or all these people are evil and unless they're stopped they're going to bring about like a holocaust or something like that, like when you say that eventually some crazy person is going to like hear that and decide to take the law into their own hands. So like yeah. uh okay. Like one second, sorry, I'm just the person who's picking up my key is just texted me. Okay, what was I talking about again? Yeah, like no, but like, and this is the thing with Trump, and this is the thing why the whole thing was just like super. Well, I'll use the G slur. That's why the whole like Trump is Hitler, Trump's gonna bring about another Holocaust is super gay, because if you actually think that Trump is Hitler, if you actually think that Fuentes is Hitler, and that if you don't stop him, he's going to kill millions of Jews. Isn't this kind of a rational thing to do if you accept that premise? like, and isn't there someone who like doesn't have impulse control or is insane or is just depressed or fucked or something, and they'll be like, "Look, I can be an hero." Does anyone remember that meme? I can be an hero, and I can go and I can kill the Nazi guy and save America. Like it's fucking dangerous to do this stuff. But that's just how it is. It just seems like this stuff at this point in time is just kind of completely fair game. But no, it's just it's nuts. But that's basically looks like where we are at the moment. Let's just see. I think there's a bit more about this. I will not have to uproot my life and relocate. Well, I can handle whatever comes to my front door. It is irresponsible to expect my neighbors with young families to share the burden. In the meantime, I will have to contact 24-hour security to protect myself and my property. Um, so I said this, and I will repeat this now. Nick should have left Chicago like years ago. To be perfect honest, like it's like I get he's not exactly in Chicago, but he shouldn't be living in the Chicago area in Illinois. Like he should have gone to Florida or Ohio or I don't know, like West Virginia, like some red state. Like, and he wouldn't have to deal with a lot of this shit. And like if he in Florida, if he pepper sprayed that woman, like he probably just wouldn't care. Like they probably would just like tell the person to fuck off. But you're putting yourself in a situation where there's all kinds of corrupt, ideologically driven cat ladies who serve as the district attorneys who could fuck you, and you just don't want to be there. Like once again, is it fair? Is it right that he has to leave Chicago because it's well, I mean, Chicago's crap to begin with, even if you're not like a right wing dissident. But I don't know. It just seems really like this should have happened years ago. Like I said, go to Florida or West Virginia or I don't know, Ohio. Ohio's not that bad, is it? I don't know. Even like a conservative part of Pennsylvania or something. But yeah, like Chicago's probably a bad idea. Okay, and then we have the uh okay, let's see here. If anybody would like to defray, I get that his I get that his like family's there. So Nick claims that he's a multi-millionaire. So like I said, and once again, you can say like that's not fair. You could say, well, Arch, you're blaming the victim, but like, dude, at a certain point, like, it's yeah. Um. Anyways, so now we have the grift. If anybody would like to contribute to defraying the cost of $13,000 a week of private security and rebuilding my studio, here is a donation link. I can only accept cryptocurrency because I am banned from banking services and cryptocurrency processing. Thank you. So there's gonna be some. Hopefully, Nick will get some money out of this. Is private security really $15,000 a week? I don't know. It's I don't know what to say about it. Hopefully they'll get some yeah. I don't know what to say. Not tied up investments, have no idea. I don't know his funds, but like, okay, so we are going to go through this all again, but there was this big thing where Nick claimed his bank account was frozen, and then it turned out it wasn't froze. It got unfrozen, but it was only one bank account, and he has a bunch of different bank accounts, and the other ones weren't froze. The whole thing was really fucking shady. Kind of like that cryptocurrency donation that he got from France. That was also really shady, but I don't know. So uh, it's. I'm also assuming that this guy is like a probably like mentally ill or whatever. So I don't know. Once again, like these people shouldn't be on our streets. So is crime still based? I mean, that's Nick. You did say crime is based. I get that that was irony, bro, but you did say that. That's not really a in your debate with Jim, you said criminals are based, so that was probably not a good idea in retrospect. So yeah, he got so Fuentes is okay, I guess. Hopefully he'll be able to get out of there. I think that the point raised by I Hypocrite helped out. Made a good point. Um, Time to move on the bright side. This should bolster your battery legal defense. Stay safe. Yeah, I hope so. It better. Um, but that's how it is. So there we go. So that is the Fuentes news. I haven't heard any other news about it, but it's been a big week for Assassination. So there's a bunch of stuff that we're just going to go through. Like I said, I will be less active for the next week or so when I'm back in Ontario. I'm not. It'll be nice to see my family again, but I'm not looking forward to it. Like as I've said many times, my family are a mixture of like generic Canadian conservatives and shit and like SJWs. And they're just the most, and it's just insufferable. So I'm gonna have to deal with partner. I'm gonna have to deal with people ranting about Trump, about how we have to fight America because Trump is going to invade Canada and just all this other crazy stuff. So I'll say this: someone used the term partner again today. I legitimately get triggered by the term partner. The term partner like legitimately triggers me, to be honest. Let's see here. Ukraine assassinates Russian. Okay. So, um in the last week, literally like a day or two ago, Ukraine assassinated a senior Russian general. Interestingly, he was the head of the chemical weapon troops in Russia. Um, so he's in charge of chemical weapons now. That is not just the weapons Russia has, but that's also like uh the NBC gear. I think is it called NBC, nuclear biological chemical. He's in charge of that. He's in charge of stuff against that, defending against those kind of attacks. But the other thing that he's involved with is the the labs in sorry the okay where is it, Lieutenant General Igor Krylov. I think that's I know that that's not the highest rank in the uh Russian army, but I think in practice they generally don't go above it. So he was talking about the biolabs in Ukraine. Let me see if I can find it. So he was the guy who was talking about that, about the secret chemical, the secret like labs that they had in Ukraine. I'm just trying to find if there's a record of that somewhere. Uh, I'm just trying to find it. Uh, I don't know if anybody recalls this story. Because apparently the U.S. had like a whole bunch of like uh biolabs in Ukraine. Um Now I from my understanding this was real. I think I don't know. I'm trying to think. I know it was reported somewhere in Western media. If someone recalls where it was, but basically Ukraine was being turned into like this playground for the CIA. Like they apparently had more bases there than I think any other country in the world. And on top of the whole, on top of that whole thing, um, like you also apparently had all these like bio labs that were in Russia. I'm just trying to find where it is. Um, US bio, but he was investigating it, and he was the person who was talking about it. Okay, here we go. Kiev Post. Uh, Kiev Independent. General Igor Krylov, the Russian chemical weapons chief and propagandist, assassinated by Ukraine. That proves that it was propaganda. That proves that it was fake. Um, Here we go. Lieutenant General met his demise in Moscow on December 17th, reportedly killed by a bomb attached to a scooter planted by the Security Service of Ukraine. So the SBU just admitted to it. He said he was a war criminal and a completely legitimate target, as he gave orders to use banned chemical weapons against Ukrainian soldiers. Is there any evidence for this? My understanding is no. An SBU source told the Kiev Independent retribution for war crimes is inevitable. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. So there's I think I forget if it's like the guy was Uzbeki or something like that. He was another one of these like Central Asian guys. I don't know if he has links to ISIS or Al Qaeda or whatever, but he apparently planted a bomb on like a scooter, and when he was leaving his apartment, they blew it up. And this is in like I think an upper end residential area um in Moscow. So yeah, he was in charge of the radiation, chemical, and biological defense troops. I think that's R. Is it R? I think it's RBC in America. Let's see. Troops designed to perform the monster. They can detecting nuclear explosions, radiation, and chemical reconnaissance, special processing, aerosol countermeasures, flamethrowers, etc. So this guy got assassinated. Now, I, I don't know. Once again, maybe I'm wrong, but I to my understanding, there is no actual evidence. Now, Russia, I think, might have used non-banned chemical weapons. I think they might have used tear gas a couple of times when they were trying to clear buildings out. Now, maybe that is illegal under international law. I don't think so, but I don't know. Um, I think it was tear gas. I'm not sure if tear gas is banned though. Is this even an illegal weapon? Ukraine said Russia used chemical weapons in Ukraine. Once again, launched attack in Ukraine. Is that true? We've still seen no evidence that I've seen. Now, if anyone, I'm always open to having my mind changed. if anybody has seen any real evidence that North Korea has sent troops to Russia, please let me know, because I have yet to see a single piece of evidence that there are North Korean soldiers in Kursk. There's footage of the Ukrainians dropping nerve gas from drones, Argent. Yeah. So once again, this is just like it's completely unacceptable. Um, it's completely unacceptable to just be assassinating people. There's a reason why this normally doesn't happen during wars, where it's because it's a very bad precedent. Like once you start trying to assassinate leaders, then they go like it's an endless escalation, and it's just a door that most people don't really want to open. Like that's one of the reasons why there was so much criticism of Israel when they killed the leader of Hamas. Um, they killed the leader of Hamas and the leader of Hezbollah and some of the other assassinations that they've done over the years. Is it really just kind of starts a cycle of escalation that has no end? It also just normalizes basically terrorism. I mean, according to Russia, Russian view this as a form of terrorism, which I mean, isn't it? Like, isn't this kind of the definition of terrorism? Like setting off explosives in a civilian area as a way of frightening enemies into acting a certain way. I don't know. It's just the whole thing is really suspicious. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard talked about the labs in Ukraine right before the beginning of the war. That was one of the reasons that they said that like she can't be allowed to become it. So I don't know. This is a common thing. Ukraine has done this a bunch of times. Including killing Alexander Dugin's daughter. They've stated they've tried to kill Putin numerous times. I don't know if anyone remembers when they flew the drone to Moscow and attacked his office. So they've been doing this quite a bit. Now, the Russians, I haven't really seen them do that much in terms of trying to assassinate the Ukrainian leadership. Now, if I was Putin, I would not want Zelensky to be removed because Zelensky is incompetent, and so is Sersky, and so is much of the leadership. And anyone who replaces him would probably be an upgrade at this point in time. So, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this. The Health Organization clarified that Ukraine has been advised to destroy high threat pathogens in labs. Okay, so let's just take a look at this. Um, there's no evidence to support this. Um, Disinformation campaign. Let's see here. The Pentagon knew if these. Okay, so they basically say the whole thing's fake. And then it says the Health Organization clarified that Ukraine had been advised to destroy any high threat pathogens in labs in order to prevent any potential spills, but stressed this was related to routine scientific research and not biological weapons. Um, so there was labs there. So they're saying, look, okay, there was labs. They were researching extremely dangerous pathogens. They were run by the U.S., but they weren't technically bioweapons. I don't know if you've guys seen the report that came out. Let's see here, FBI informants. Sorry, I don't have a super detailed show planned. I just heard about the Fuentes thing. So okay, so a report came out. I don't think we need to check early life on this one. A week or two back, that about the role of the FBI in January 6th. So the cope is there was no FBI agents that they were willing to admit in the Jan 6 riot, but there was 26 FBI informants. So look, guys, they weren't agents; they were informants. They were paid informants. That doesn't mean that they were agents, though. That doesn't prove anything. It actually is. It is debunking. It is debunking all the conspiracy theories. Uh, yeah. So the Watchdog report examined a number of areas. Okay. Although 17 of these informants entered the Capitol or a restricted area around the building during the riot. None of the 26 total informants were authorized to do so by the Bureau, according to the report. Nor were they authorized to break the law or encourage others to do so. Because if the FBI says it, it's true. It's 100% true. So, claim a 2024 report released by the Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General is proof that the Jan 6 Capitol riot was set up by the FBI. No, there was no undercover FBI employees. They were informants. They were just informants who were probably being blackmailed, honestly, by the FBI. The FBI probably was getting them to be agent provocateurs in exchange for reduced sentences. It'd be interesting if we found out the list of these names and like Baked Alaska was one and Nick Fuentes was one. That would be pretty funny. But yeah, so what this just came up to me because they're like, look, there were labs researching dangerous shit in Ukraine, but they weren't bioweapons labs. Whereas there is these guys who were there, and we admit they were there, but they weren't. They weren't FBI employees; they were FBI informants. So it's a big difference. Let's see here. Of the total 26 informants, 4 entered the Capitol during the riot, and an additional 13 entered a restricted area around the Capitol, but none were authorized to do so. Where does it say none of them were charged? None of the 17 informants who entered the Capitol or the surrounding area have been prosecuted. A footnote states that after reviewing a draft of the report, hey, Fuentes hasn't been prosecuted for this. Just saying. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington said that it generally has not charged these individuals whose only crime on Jan 6 was to enter restricted grounds surrounding the Capitol, which has resulted in the office declining to charge hundreds of individuals. We have treated the confidential employments consistent with this approach. That is a massive lie. That is like that is a gigantic like lie. They've arrested all kinds of people for all kinds of different reasons. But no, like once again, this was something else I've been wanting to bring up. Jan 16th was the Jan 6th was the setup. So these claims echo a fringe conspiracy theory. But I mean, is it a conspiracy theory if there was FBI informants and the FBI informants entered the Capitol? I don't know. I personally, my opinion is I don't think that maybe Jan 6 was like I there was aspects of it. I honestly just think a bunch of boomers just got pissed off and did a riot, and that was about it. Like people sometimes just riot. Now, was there orders when they started doing it to let them into the Capitol and not to try to stop them and to try to like actively make the situation worse? Yes. But I do think it's ultimately just people got pissed off over what happened and they rioted. So I don't know. It's always you can tell a lot about someone's political views by how they define the whole January 6th thing. Like if you want to like if you define it as being like a coup attempt, an insurrection, or rebellion. I just think calling it a riot makes the most sense. But yeah, so this is something that's been going on in Ukraine. They have just been they did this attack. They have also been they launched another round of attackums on territory inside of Russia. I think what they're doing at this point in time is they're doing just about anything that they can think of to try to ruin relationships between Russia and America before Trump comes to power. Because once Trump comes to power, he's made it pretty clear a lot of this stuff is going to stop. So we have this. So the weird kind of scenario that we're in at the moment is they're basically attacking. They're trying to provoke Russia into some sort of overreaction, or trying to get Russia to escalate and basically scuttle any hope of doing peace treaties. Meanwhile, Trump and his team is trying to say like, no, wait, just we'll just this is Biden. Biden's crazy. Once we get to my inauguration, this stuff is going to this stuff is going to stop. So I think so far Russia hasn't been trying to escalate. They fired the Orezhnev, but once again, that's a conventional missile. It's a very advanced conventional missile, but it's a conventional missile. They haven't used nuclear weapons yet or attacked Western targets. So that's something to just kind of keep in mind about where we are at the moment. There is also strong rumors that Ukraine is preparing for another invasion of Russia. That they are going to attempt to find another spot to try and do an incursion for propaganda purposes. They fired at a city in uh, Rostov. So, according to the Russian news, and I tend to actually believe them on this, they fired 10 missiles at the military enterprise in Rostov. Russia claims that 9 of the 10 were shot down, but one hit the location. So, do I think Russia shot that many down? Maybe, maybe not, but I haven't really been seeing much from the Americans or the Ukrainians about these like long range missile strikes being very effective. Like I have not seen very much of it at all um to indicate it. So yeah. Also, once again, like the whole North Korean thing, I'm going to repeat what I've been consistently saying about the North Korean thing. Um, okay, yeah, there's another plan. Yeah, that's the other plan that they have in mind is they are going to go after the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, which is a long-term objective. Um, there's a desire to take the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, partially for the electricity, although I'm pretty sure it's shut down at this point in time. But also, it's kind of partially potentially hold it hostage as kind of a way to dissuade the Russians from attacking along that axis, or like the implicit threat is they'll blow up the power plant or some other crazy stuff. So so that's the current plan. I don't know what they're gonna do. Zelensky has said there will be no negotiations. We won't even talk to Putin. Keep in mind that it is illegal in Ukraine. Zelensky issued a legally binding decree that Ukraine is not legally capable of negotiating with Russia. So even if like so Russia has always said they're willing to negotiate. Now, you can take from that what you will. If that's just rhetorical or something like that, you can just say that that's rhetoric, that they're not actually, or that the negotiations won't go anywhere. But even if they can't even have a negotiation with Russia because they signed a law preventing them from having a negotiation with Russia. So there's that aspect to it. They've also just said no. The only thing we will accept is total victory. I don't know if anybody saw this. Sorry, sorry. Just before we get to that, so the whole North Korean thing, I haven't seen any evidence of it. The evidence I've seen is there's like some Asian Mongoloid soldiers that they found, but there's lots of like I can never remember how to spell their name, the Buryat people. Like there's all kinds of Mongoloids who live in Russia and just look like so they came across like some guys who look like this in Russian uniforms or something like that, and that's supposed to prove that the North Korean soldiers are there because it couldn't just be like yeah here we go Buryats. These guys couldn't be possibly be mistaken for Koreans. Now, once again, it's quite possible that there are North Korean soldiers in Russia as an expeditionary force there to try to get some sort of. It's been confirmed that in case special forces are. What is the actual evidence? If somebody wants to send me it, I'll be willing to take a look on it on stream. But I have not seen that, so maybe there are. And if there are, like, why does it really matter? I mean, there's been lots of NATO mercenaries in Ukraine for the entire duration of this. Like, remember the French Foreign Legion building that got blown up? There's US Special Forces, there's Polish mercenaries, quote unquote, who are just basically regular army guys. So, like, why does it even matter? Um, like, why does it even matter? To be okay, so military summary channel's been talking about it. Okay, so maybe there are some, but I don't really. Russia and North Korea are military allies. Why would it even matter? Like if North Korea sent some soldiers to help out in uh in Ukraine. Also, the Russian army is like what over 1 million people at this point in time. Like the cope is that Ukraine was winning the war until the Russians came in. Well, I mean, the UK is poor in a dictatorship, and France, and so like that means Ukraine's poor in a dictatorship. So the personnel, okay, so Russia has an active army of 150,000 people. So the claim that we're supposed to believe is that North Korea is sending like 10,000, the number keeps going up. It was like 5, 10, 50,000. So North Korea sending 10,000 dudes is what's making the difference. Um the 1.5 million active personnel are so bad that they were losing, but 10,000 North Koreans are like space marines, and they were able to come in and completely turn the tide. So once again, is it possible that North Korea has sent in some special forces to help their ally out? I think more so than help Russia out, the idea is to get their troops some combat experience. We recall during the Spanish Civil War, both sides did this. The Germans sent some guys in, the Italians did, and the Soviets did. The idea wasn't just to help out their ideological allies, but also it gave them a chance to test out new weapons. Their soldiers could get some on the ground experience. This is very common. So my point though is, okay, I haven't seen definitive evidence. I'll check out the military summary channel. Dima, I find, is not super reliable. I don't think he lies, but I think he gets very excited And if he sees a piece of evidence, he just immediately will latch onto it. Yeah, he'll immediately kind of latch onto it and just kind of get excited about it. So I'm gonna have to take a look at that. I will do that at some point though. But even if they are, I don't think it really matters. Either it won't affect the course of the war, and I don't really get why. Um, Mirabella, you'll have to scroll back. Nick Fuentes, a guy tried to kill Nick Fuentes. He killed three previous people. Then he showed up at Nick's door with a crossbow, bombs, and a pistol. And then the police showed up and, like, I think they ran him down with their car or something like that. So that happened. Also, they assassinated a senior Russian general. Now, Trump's team has said that this was a mistake and this was a bad idea and they shouldn't be doing stuff like this. So Trump's really trying to de-escalate this. Um, if possible, buy 5% of your yearly income into Bitcoin before Trump is elected. I'm kind of done with crypto. My money is in diversified exchange traded funds. I don't know if that's like a bad place for it, but I have a bunch of index funds. I think there's like a Canadian one, an American one, an international one, like a bond fund, a a corporate bond fund, a real estate index fund. I don't know. I use Wealth Simple. It's automated. It's automated. They don't play with the market. They just buy. They just have index funds they buy. Unless the entire market completely crashes, I should be good. Now, could the market have a downturn and I lose a bunch of money? I mean, that's certainly possible, but I mean, the market will eventually recover. I mean, people are always going to buy stuff, so I'm okay where I have my money at the moment. I just I don't know. I bought some crypto once as like kind of a joke, and I just never want to be back in that position again. Okay, so should we talk about Syria? I'm just trying to think what else is going on in Ukraine. So, oh yeah, I was going to make some predictions. So, you know how I said I wasn't going to make predictions because this whole war is completely insane and it's kind of impossible to tell what's even happening because it's like a cinematic universe. Well, I'm going to go back on that. So, I think at this point in time, it's more or less just a matter of when, rather than where. Uh, where whether sorry of when rather than if when it comes to the Ukrainian army collapse. It's gonna okay, yeah, we'll get to Canada in a minute, Blue Team. You're right. I need to cover Canada. There's a lot of shit going on to cover. Um, it's a question of when. I think eventually the Ukrainian army will collapse from any number of different reasons. From my understanding, morale is truly horrendous at this point in time. They're out of trained manpower. Almost what's left of it is what's left of the Ukrainian army is mostly recently mobilized conscripts. They aren't trained, they aren't motivated. The the high morale, like well trained NATO army that we had earlier in the war that gave the Russians so much trouble is long since gone. More and more Russian troops who have undergone a full training regimen up to a year of actual training are entering the field. So I think it's a question of when. So I would say there's probably about maybe a 20 to 30% chance of the collapse happening in the next 3 months. I would be absolutely astounded if by the summer it hasn't happened. I think there's a very high chance that before the summer, there's going to be some sort of implosion. Unless something changes with a ceasefire or Trump does something, I would be shocked if the Ukrainian army doesn't have some sort of collapse by then. However, according to Zelensky, the Ukrainian army has taken basically no casualties. So according to Zelensky, the total losses of Ukrainian soldiers in the war with Russia is 43,000 guys. That's it. That's it. There's only 43,000 Ukrainian soldiers who have died in the entirety of the war. There's been 370,000 injuries. That's definitely been happening. However, that includes stuff like stubbing your toe, and some soldiers have been injured more than once. So they've basically taken no casualties. Um, Basically none. According to him, though, Russia has taken 200,000 casualties. I think that's changed. I think I thought he said that it was higher in the past. So Russia, despite having an overwhelming advantage in trained manpower, weapons, air superiority, artillery superiority, missile superiority, superior numbers, and all that stuff is somehow like losing men at a rate of like 4 Russians for each Ukrainian. That somehow makes sense. Now, as I've said, I think early war the kill ratio was probably in Ukraine's favor. I would imagine the first 6 months or so, the Russians were probably losing more men than they were killing, for a number of different reasons. But I don't know. This is nuts. Also, why are they having to do all these mobilizations? They've lost virtually no soldiers. Like the Ukrainian army, I think was like at its peak 1 million men. So this is like over 3 years of war, less than 5% of the Ukrainian army has died. But they're running out of troops and they need to keep lowering the mobilized. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I think personally, it's also an insult to the immense sacrifices the Ukrainian people have made during this conflict. And I have never, I just want to say this again, and I'm sorry if this sounds like I'm pandering or hedging my bets. I have never insulted the Ukrainian army. I've said that that the political leadership is sending barely trained men into combat, where they're almost certainly going to die. That's not their men's fault. The Ukrainian soldiers have shown nothing but bravery and endurance in the face of like truly horrendous conditions. Um, Lack of weapons, lack of resources. A lot of them don't get paid. They don't get training. Um, they have to deal with Zelensky. Like, can you imagine being a soldier in the Ukrainian army and you have Zelensky, Sirski, Joe Biden, and Tony Blinken telling you what to do? Like, four of the like some of the dumbest people in the world who think that this is a movie, and you have these assholes telling you what to do. And but they have sacrificed. I think they've done more than I think anyone could really expect of them, and I think that's partially why this whole thing is so tragic. Is because at this point in time, the war is a foregone conclusion, but they won't negotiate. They're just going to keep throwing brave men who have no chance with a lack of weaponry, with a lack of training into battle, to just get slaughtered against an enemy who has air supremacy, who has artillery, who has missile. Like, I don't know. Once again, it's just at some point, guys, like you just have to give it up because it's not going to get any better, and you're just throwing brave young men to their deaths because you don't want to admit that you're losing the war, and because Biden wanted to do the election. So I don't know. I'm sorry if I always bring that up. I just want to make it very clear, like how I do feel for the Ukrainian army, and I don't denigrate them. And I think most of the soldiers who signed up, uh, willingly did so because they wanted to defend their homeland. And it's disgusting. Like, Boris Johnson's a fucking piece of shit. Because if he hadn't have come in and fucked things up, like, was the deal great? No, the deal wasn't great, but you wouldn't have had hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men just dying. You wouldn't have had an entire generation just wiped out because Zelensky wanted to play Winston Churchill in a movie and Biden wanted to win an election. Anyways, once again, sorry if I'm just kind of rambling on there, but I think it is important to just think about the tragedy of this. Um like, these people are assholes. Like, if you hear, once again, if you hear about Lindsey Graham saying, "Oh, well, we'll take Ukraine's mineral wealth after the war is over," like, Lindsey Graham's a psychopath. Um, I like Lindsey Graham has got to be one of the most disgusting people on earth. Lindsey Graham's a psychopath. Not only are we going to make them fight Russia to the last Ukrainian, you know what's the other thing that's really gross is the whole it's by keeping the I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is like a common refrain I hear now in the whole US political scene. We have to keep giving weapons to Ukraine because it's good for our economy because we're creating American jobs by giving contracts to the military industrial complex in Canada, sorry, in America. So we're going to keep giving, we're going to keep spending money to build weapons to send to Ukraine. And that's why we have to keep the war going. Number one, this is, I don't know if any of you have ever read like a conservative economist who criticizing like Keynesianism and saying, well, the logical extension of Keynesianism is just to pay people to dig holes in the ground and fill them back in. And that's a way of dealing with the economy, of stimulating the economy. So like that's the big plan is we're gonna pay people to build bombs, then we're gonna send them and get destroyed and blow up, like, and just get thrown out, like, destroyed. You could be building other stuff, like you could build roads, you could build cars, you could give it back in the form of a tax cut. You could maybe spend some of that money to rebuild Hawaii or North Carolina or Palestine, Ohio, or something like that. Marabella doesn't know what Reddit is. Oh, you sweet summer child. It's a rock worth living under if you don't know what Reddit is. Um, but no, it's just retarded. And once again, like, what kind of fucked up logic is that? We have to keep a war going on that's getting hundreds of thousands of people killed and destroying a country so we can give the MIC more money. Like, I don't know. It's just these people are fucked. Like, these people are just fucked. Okay, so very briefly we'll take a look at Syria and then we'll move on to Canada. So Israel has started to renew their offensive. They're taking an increasing amount of territory. They are actually starting to move in the south as well. This is temporary. This is a special military operation to denazify and demilitarize Syria. I think is the objective of it. So, yeah. So we have the Israelis are continuing to push. I'm not sure how much territory they're going to grab. They're probably going to keep everything they've taken so far. And I don't know if the goal is to just set up a buffer zone or they're going to annex the territory. Netanyahu has said that the Golan Heights is a part of, an integral part of Israel that will eternally remain part of it. So I probably at some point this year they will announce a formal annexation of the Golan Heights, and this will probably become the new zone. So we have that going on. I don't know how much is happening in the east. My understanding is that the various jihadi groups in the Turkish army are pushing pretty hard against the Kurds. I think that the Turks at this point in time are just are going for total Kurdish death. And they're just going to try to push them back as much as possible and probably destroy what they can. Now, there's increasing evidence and rumors and stuff that I've heard about that kind of thing. That there was a setup. That this was more of a coup than a civil war per se. That the Syrian elite decided to throw Assad under the bus, and they made private deals with the Israelis and Turks, and with HTS and some of the other jihadi groups, that they were going to snake on Assad and they would disband the army and they would not put up any kind of resistance in exchange for, I don't know if it's positions in the new regime, I don't know if it's for money, passports to European countries, allowing them to go into exile. And so a lot of this was kind of it was maybe more of a coup than an actual civil war. So I don't know what exactly happened with Assad then. Like, was he under house arrest? Were people just lying to him about what was going on? There's all these kind of stuff. So it's we aren't really sure exactly what wound up happening during the Syrian civil war. Now there was also an announcement today. U.S. troops. So Daniel Davis was covering this. This is the far right conspiracy website, U.S. Department of Defense. So they have been claiming for years now that there is 900 U.S. troops in Syria. Okay, fair enough. It turns out that there is actually not 900 U.S. troops in Syria. There is 2,000 U.S. troops in Syria. And this has been the case for a while now. But it's just, look, we got the numbers wrong. We didn't realize that there was that many. Like, we miscounted, like 900, 2,000. It's really easy. It's an easy thing to screw up. There's all these other guys there. They're there to fight ISIS. What was the other thing? They did, I think it was something like 70 strikes. So I don't know. That whole thing is just, I don't know. Do people in chat agree with me that this is shady as fuck? That there's like more than twice as many soldiers as they initially claimed there were? I don't know. It just all seems crazy to me. And it seems like bullshit. So I don't know why they're there, but also my understanding is they went there. Okay, the additional forces have been in place since before I think the HTS offensive. So as far as we can determine, America either had them there the whole time, or they moved in, like, these dudes right before the big offensive started. So I don't know. Neither of them is really it. Okay, so U.S. announces that they airstrikes on ISIS targets in Syria after Assad's fall. Look, Rain, if you're gonna bite me, no biting. There you go. I'll put on the automated laser pointer, and you can play with that, but you're not biting. Okay. All right. So immediately after the Assad fell, the U.S. said it struck 75 ISIS targets. in Syria. So the question is, if they knew about this in advance, how come these weren't attacked previously? That were they just building up targets for like the last year and they just had 76? That just they just decided to start firing at? Like it doesn't make any sense. A lot of this stuff is just bro needs a second cat. I want to get a second cat. I just need to move to a bigger apartment. I'll probably get a second one at some point in time. I have a one bedroom apartment. I don't think I have enough room for a second cat at the moment. If I move to a two bedroom one, I might get Rain a friend, and then or something. Okay, we'll not allow ISIS to reconstitute, or at least I'll get some better stuff for her to play with. Let's see here. Please get a Maine Coon. No, I don't want to get one because they're just too big. Um, I only keep indoor cats, so a smaller cat is preferable. Maybe I'll get a Siamese. Maybe I'll get a Siamese. I've always wanted to get a Turkish Angora. They claim that in that raid was like half Angora, but I don't really I don't know. I think they lied about that. So okay, so that stuff happened. All right. Now let's move on. So what happened in Canada this week? No, I mean if I had a big house, I'd love a Maine Coon, but he's just like but they're just yeah. Okay. Uh the Siamese. Okay, for those of you who don't know, this is what a Maine Coon. That is what a Maine Coon looks like. They are they are gigantic cats. They're the biggest breed of cat there is. Um, they are massive. Apparently, a lot of people like them because of their size. Also, they have kind of they're floofers and they have the lynx hair, like the tuft of hair on their ears. So Siamese cats are very small, aren't they? But yeah, so Maine Coons are huge. Apparently, they're extremely like friendly and affectionate and nice animals, which is good because like a cat this size, if it wanted to bite you, it could do some like major damage. That thing could probably kill you. Well, I don't know if it would kill you, but it could maul you pretty damn bad. Okay, so here's what happened. Here's what happened in Canada in the last week or so. So we had our full economic update, which is kind of like the mini partial budget for the year, and Krista Freeland was going to give it. Chrystia Freeland is very well respected in Canada. People love her because she's a strong woman. She's like role model to women everywhere in Canada, and stuff like that. So she was the Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister. So let's see here. Cabinet. I like why is it that Americans want to annex Canada? You're just gonna get 10 more blue states. Like I don't really get why that's an idea. So in Canada, there's a bunch of different positions as with the US, but some positions are more prestigious than others. So like finance is more prestigious, foreign affairs, defense, justice. I think it's pretty similar to the US because isn't Secretary of State the most senior one? I think Treasury is important. Oh, health. Health is extremely important. So Christine Freeland was the Minister uh, of Finance as well as the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada. So Justo had assigned her to come up with a budget. Um, a budget. So apparently last week she had a fight with Justo over okay, so let me think how to even get across it. So liberals had promised that they were going to have the deficit down um to what was it? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find it. Uh Sorry, I'm just trying to find what the budget was. Uh, Sorry, I'm just trying to find the exact amount of money that it went over. Okay, I'll have to leave for a minute in just a minute. Don't worry, it's I'll only be gone for a minute or two. Okay, so about 50% more. So the deficit target was about $40 billion. Justo promised that we're going to keep the budget deficit to 40 billion. The budget deficit came in at $61 billion. And obviously this was not a good thing. So we had that to begin with. Now, Justo was trying to maneuver Christina Freeland out of her position. I think they were going to give her like some nondescript, like minister without portfolio, basically just a massive downgrade. Um, like just this massive downgrade. Um, but still wanted her to give the financial update. So what wound up happening is rather than give it, she announced that she was resigning as finance minister and deputy prime minister. And she issued basically a thing saying that Justo was retarded. Let me see, Christina. Okay, let me see if I can find this. Um,
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing the biggest political crisis.
Just trying to find it. Yeah, so she just resigned. They didn't even have the like announcement. She just left in the middle of when it was going to happen. So the part of the thing, what they were ultimately fighting over, is Justo wanted to implement all these additional spending programs. So let's see here. Um, okay, so Trump went and talked to Justo and basically said, unless Canada strengthens its border security, unless Canada ups its border security, and decides to, what was the other thing that they were going to do? And deals with the issue of all the Chinese goods that are flowing into the country. We're going to put 25% tariffs on everything. So this happened. Justo was like not really paying that much attention to it. He said, okay, we'll just spend the we'll spend the money to make it look good. Uh, there's a whole bunch of like pork barrel stuff they put in. They added all this other stuff in. Let me see here. I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, so all that stuff happened. Um, all that stuff happened under Justo. We also have this thing in the last couple of months. Next couple of months where Justo announced that we're just gonna have a GST holiday for some reason. So GST is our sales tax, and they're just gonna suspend it for a couple of months because um yeah, there's gonna be a tax holiday. There's going to be send $250 checks to people because they can. There's going to be a bunch of other spending on stuff, and things like that. So basically, they're going to run up this massive deficit. Justo had a whole bunch of extra shit he was going to spend money on. The deficit was super high. Um, yeah, the deficit was super high, and Christina's argument was that we should be saving money now and trying to fix the deficit in case some crazy shit happens with Trump. We need to be ready for the eventuality. So we need to keep our powder dry. We need to try to figure the whole thing out. And this isn't the time to like be doing this other nonsense. So let's see here. By helicopters and drones to monitor the border. We need to take the threat seriously. This means keeping our fiscal powder dry today. So we have. Let me see if I can find her statement. Okay, so here it is. Dear Prime Minister, so this is her resignation letter. Dear Prime Minister, it has been the honor of my life to serve in government, working for Canada and Canadians. We have accomplished a lot together. On Friday, you told me you no longer wanted me to serve as your finance minister and offered me another position in the cabinet. Upon reflection, I've concluded that the only honest and viable path, or honest and truthful path for me, is to resign from cabinet. To be effective, a minister must speak on behalf of the prime minister and with his full confidence. In making your decision, you made it clear I no longer credibly enjoy that confidence and possess the authority that comes with it. For the past number of weeks, you and I have found ourselves at odds about the best path forward for Canada. Our country today faces a grave challenge. The incoming administration of the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a 25% tariff. We need to take that threat extremely seriously. That means keeping our fiscal powder dry today, so we have reserves we may need for a coming tariff war. This means it's ensuing costly political gimmicks we can ill afford and which make Canadians doubt whether we recognize the gravity of the situation. This means pushing back against America First economic nationalism with a determined effort to fight for capital investments and the jobs they bring. That means working in good faith and humility with the premiers of the provinces and territories of our great and diverse country in building a true Team Canada response. So basically, Justo was fucking up on this whole thing. So all of the premiers have come together and they're like forming almost a rival government to try to negotiate with Trump in the U.S. To try to get like this tariff thing to not happen because Justo just has no idea what the fuck he's doing. Um, so yeah, that was her resignation letter. Um, Now, basically, a large percentage of her population decided to, a large percentage of the House decided to call for her resignation, including many members of the Liberal Party. So the current status in the Canadian House of Commons. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave for just a minute to pass over the key to the cat sitter. Okay, so currently in the House of Commons, this is Parliament of Canada. I'm looking for House of Commons. House of Commons. Okay. So currently the Liberal government has 153 seats. Canada has 338 seats. I can't recall the exact number of seats that you need to get a majority government. I think it's 100. Yeah, it's 170. So you need 170 to majority government. The Liberals fell short of getting the 170 they needed, so they had to go to the NDP and get their support on it. So the Liberals and NDP are not in a coalition. They're in what's known as a supply and confidence agreement. On confidence votes that would normally lead to an election, they will vote with the Liberals in exchange for their certain priorities being put forward. So, sorry, I'll be back in like 5 minutes, guys. Apologies. Okay, I'm back. There we go. Right. So Ray, you will be fed while I'm away. Okay. So anyway, yeah, so they've been having support now. For those of you who don't live in parliamentary systems, if the government loses certain key votes, which are called confidence votes, then they have lost confidence of the House and they have to go to an election. Japan's like this, I think. France is like this. The UK's like this. So the NDP has been propping up the Liberals. And so they've just kind of been having trouble getting a lot of stuff done. The NDP's been forcing them to put all kinds of like crazy radical shit in. And it's just been kind of going along. Okay. So let's go to Chiraeus, who is a Quebec center right guy who models elections. So this is what's currently going on with the current projections on what the next election is going to look like. Let me just see. He posted one just the other day. So here is what it's looking like at the moment as far as the federal election in Canada. It looks like the Liberals are in the direction of 0 seats. They're going to lose basically all of their seats. They're going to be reduced down to just a couple seats in Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. The rest of the country is basically just going to go conservative, like almost everywhere else. Other than Quebec, which is going to vote for the Bloc Québécois. And the Bloc Québécois, for the first time since the 90s, will become the official opposition. So the Liberals and NDP suck so much that the Separatist Party is going to beat them combined. It is currently what some of it is looking for. That is how bad the situation is at the moment under Justo. Let me see. What are some other projections that we've had recently? Let's see here. Okay, that was another one. That was another one where the Liberals will only go down to 25 seats, but they will go back to third place. Stuff like that. Federal vote intention. Yeah, the Conservatives are going to get like 50% of the vote in a country where, yeah, it's not a two-party system. It's not a two-party system. So let's see here. So they apparently there is a by-election. Okay, what was the by? There was a by-election in a safe Liberal seat that they lost. Justo is widely despised. Justo is the all of it has kind of worn thin. People don't like him anymore. I'm just trying to find where it is because I thought there was like a recent by-election or there's like an upcoming one that's been going on. Let's see. A by-election, for those of you who don't know, is if somebody resigns or dies and they need to get somebody into the spot. Let's see here. Okay, so yes, this was the recent one. So this was, I think, a fairly safe Liberal seat. So last election, the Liberals. Oh no, it wasn't safe. Okay, but it wasn't. So it was a close one. So in the federal election, the Liberals got 39% to the Conservatives 36. We had the current election that they had. I think they're still counting. The Conservatives got 66% of the vote, and the Liberals got 16. So the conservatives went up 30%, the liberals went down 23%, and everybody else basically got felt it. So that is how much of a swing that there's been. And it's not just been like that. It's looking like the conservatives, despite sucking, are just going to win solely on the basis that everybody hates Jagmeet Singh and everybody hates Justo. And that's the primary reason why they're going to win. So yeah, they lost the thing in Quebec. Okay, so maybe we'll try to talk a bit about the political party system in Canada. It's kind of difficult to explain because they're kind of all shades of some the same thing, but so as I've said in the past, it's important to keep in mind that politics in Canada is more about historically prior to like the I don't know when it would be, but for a lot of the time, liberal conservative was more divided by identity than by ideology. If you were English speaking and Protestant, you tended to vote conservative. If you were Catholic and French speaking, you tended to vote liberal. So that's kind of changed over time. The progressive conservatives and liberals were very similar for most of the 20th century. The biggest difference was once again the conservatives tended to emphasize loyalty to Britain, a stronger connection to the monarchy, and a more Anglo identity for Canada, whereas the Liberals initially did endorse biculturalism, but under Trudeau's father, they moved away from biculturalism to multiculturalism, and the idea that Canada is a hotel of nations or like a mosaic of nations, and that we actively have to have Canada as diverse as possible. So that's kind of how it is. So if you like look at what they have stated for these, for whatever reason, the Liberals are considered a centrist party. I would say that they're like if I had to define them in certain terms, I would say that the Liberals are center left on economics and far left on social issues. Is how I would describe them. If I had to describe them. The NDP came out of the Canadian labor movement. They're kind of similar to the Labor Party in the UK. They grew out of primarily Western Canada. Um, I think out of various farmers and labor movements. The thing is that the Liberal Party doesn't really have much to offer people in rural areas. So rural areas in Canada will often vote. Let me see if I can find an electoral map. Will often vote either conservative or NDP, but won't vote liberal. Yeah, you can kind of see that a bit here. So yeah, a lot of the really rural, not all of them, but a lot of the rural areas will tend to vote conservative or NDP, whereas the liberals have their support base more in the major cities. Um, there's a lot more. It's kind of like the NDP initially had stuff like the Christian left in it. They used to be more kind of populist and stuff like that. They used to kind of portray themselves as being like the party of like men who work outside with hard hats and stuff like that. That just isn't the case anymore. Now they're like for people who think the liberals aren't far left enough. So I would say that the NDP are like left wing on economics and far left on social issues. I don't think that there's really a difference between them on the issue of on social issues between them and the liberals. The liberals are slightly more free market, I guess you could say, or they slightly more support a mixed economy. The NDP tend to be socialist more or less. Um, they used to be called the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, which was this weird mixture of agrarianism, socialism, the Christian left, and a bunch of other stuff. Now they're led by Jagmeet Singh, who is like just ugh. Jagmeet Singh is terrible. Um, People hate him. Okay, so the conservatives, I would consider the conservatives to be center right economically and center left to left wing socially. They are not particularly different from the liberals on most issues, having to do with social issues. The only real difference is they tend to be more in favor of free speech, and more in favor of crime. I think the biggest issue they differ from the liberals on is they tend to be very tough on crime. Um, they tend to be tough on crime. They tend to be a little more populist. Uh, there's a bit more factionalism in it because the western wing of the Conservative Party is substantially further to the right than the eastern wing of it. But like on most issues in the US, like they're 100% pro-abortion. They are 100% pro-multiculturalism, 100% pro-immigration. Uh, or I don't know. Apparently, it's kind of confusing because they keep changing things. So yeah. Um, they also tend to be a lot more pro Canada's energy resources, pipelines, and stuff like that. They have a lot of like boomer con positions. Like they tend to be the colorblind people, the like men and women are equal types, and stuff like that. They tend to not like affirmative action as much. They're kind of like, I'm not really sure how to put them in. They're kind of like the Democrats from the 90s. I think that's a good way to put the conservatives. The conservatives are like the Democrats from the 90s, but more liberal on social issues, if that makes any kind of sense. They're kind of neoliberals who are anti-crime. Um, so yeah. They also tend to be extremely pro Israel. Interesting is interesting. Sorry, Israel's interesting in Canada because the political class is overwhelmingly pro Israel, but the average Canadian is overwhelmingly pro Palestine. They want to get with the CBC, which is based. So apparently they're against birthright citizenship. I have not seen any evidence of that. Um, yeah, mandatory minimums. I'm tempted to vote conservative just because of mandatory minimums. To be honest, I probably will wind up voting for them. To be honest, as much as I kind of hate them, because just because Polyev has said that he will overturn Justo's hate crime legislation and he will implement mandatory minimums, which to me is a big deal because I live in one of the highest crime places in Canada. So locking up criminals is like worth me voting for, even if Polyev is a massive cringe lord. But I don't know. I'm probably not explaining it very well, to be honest. They also support immigration, but they support what they consider to be good immigration. So, like, good immigration would be like we only bring in the immigrants who have money and are educated instead of just refugees. So, we want it to be the same. We just want it done in a slightly more competent fashion. Then we also have the BQ. The BQ is our Quebec separatists. Um, they are really weird. Quebec politics is like the is super complicated. It's hard to even really explain. Basically, Quebec politics is divided along sovereigntist or federalist. Um, so parties are either sovereigntist, meaning they want secession, or they are federalist, meaning they want to stay part of Canada. So the secessionist parties are Quebec Solidaire, which is like the cat lady party. It's like the far left one, but they are separatists. And then you have the BQ, sorry, the PQ. The PQ is really weird. They are basically the provincial wing of the BQ. Um, they are theoretically a left leaning party, but their voter base is really weird, and it explains it here. So, um, they have a wide range of support from large sections of organized labor to conservative rural voters. So basically, Quebec sovereigntists will just generally would vote for PQ, and that would range from like conservatives to conservative sovereigntists to left wing sovereigntists. Now, Quebec is a very left wing province, so they tended to be majority left wing, but it was more defined by the preservation of French identity, the French language, and preserving monoculturalism in Quebec. Now, a couple of years back, we had the CAQ, which is a non-sectarian party. So they are not federalist or sovereigntist. They want more autonomy for Quebec, but they do not want to secede from Canada. So they showed up as a kind of the first real competitive conservative party in Canada, sorry, in Quebec for a long period of time. We also now apparently have like a random conservative party of Quebec. So the next election looks like the PQ is going to regain power after a long period out of power. Um, but yeah, like, and then we have the Liberal Party of Quebec. Now it's confusing because the Liberal Party of Quebec is the most federalist party in Quebec, so they're the most pro Canadian government. But the Liberal Party of Quebec is historically more closely linked to the Conservative Party, or it's equally linked to the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party. So Jean Charest, who became the leader of the Quebec Liberal Party, was previously the leader of the Federal Conservative Party. So yeah, it is interesting. Now Quebec tends to be the most anti-immigration part of Canada, and they are the most anti-multicultural part of Canada. Now, to a certain degree, the anti-immigration kind of works like this: Anglo's out, Haitians in, base civic nationalism, where it's like, okay, well, we're okay with like French-speaking immigrants from Africa or Haiti. They just can't be Anglo. So like, we'll kick out the white English speakers, but like the black French speakers are okay. Is often how it often tends to go. Um, Quebec is really weird though. It's extremely socially liberal. It's extremely anti-religious. Um, Quebec used to be the most religious conservative place in North America. They went through something called the Quiet Revolution, in which mass attendance rates fell from like 80% to 20% in the span of a decade. I don't know. I'm not the biggest. Quebec politics are really complicated, and like who even really cares anyways about Quebec? But yeah, so we have them. Then we have the like only decent party in Canada, the People's Party of Canada, which is Bernier. Now Bernier lost the Conservative leadership race to Andrew Scheer by like a couple hundred votes, or it's something like that, very close. And they are the right wing populist group. They are anti-immigration, anti-political correctness, pro-freedom of speech, anti-crime. Um, they have a lot of like libertarian, like paleo conservatives. stuff like that, non-interventionism, kind of similar to, I don't know if they're a bit similar to MAGA. They're more like economically liberal than MAGA, I guess you could say. They're like, if MAGA was not socially conservative and was more libertarian on economics, I think that's a good way of putting it. So that tends to be how they feel about it. So yeah, um, but they are completely irrelevant in Canadian politics. Unfortunately, I voted for them in the last election, but Polyev is perceived as being to the right of the conservative, representing the right wing of the Conservative Party. So basically, all the people who would vote for the People's Party are just voting conservative in this election. Now, Polyev is a cringe lord. Let's take a bit of a look at him and see what he's been posting. He ranges from saying stuff that's kind of base to like the cringiest shit possible. Um, let's see here. Uh, okay, his big thing is axe the tax. Um, they want to get rid of the carbon tax. That's his big campaign issue, which I don't know if anyone actually cares about the carbon tax. Um, so his entire like platform is axe the tax, which I personally don't really care about, to be honest. It wouldn't really affect me. Let's see here. What else do we have? NDP Liberals created a housing hell on earth. So I live in probably the shittiest major city in Canada, and even me, I'm not able to, like, on my salary, I'm not really able to afford a house. Um, and I don't even make bad money. As like a single male with a decent paying job, and no car, I still like housing is basically unaffordable. Um, for me, given how bad things are. A lot of that is immigration. Now he talks about out of control immigration, so I don't know if that means we're gonna go from like 1 million immigrants a year to like 900,000 immigrants a year. Let's see here. Let's see here. Trying to find his trying to remember how do you his Filipino wife or whatever. Okay, this is the cringiest thing. This is why I call him a cringe lord. As the sun goes down tonight, Jews will gather to mark Judaism's holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, a reminder of God's eternal love and his timeless promises of mercy and justice to his people. As the Jewish community faces a resurgence of anti Semitism, we commit ourselves to making Canada a safer country where everyone can live and worship in peace and security. And then some words in Hebrew. But um just he like I don't know, just all of his like pictures are just him with like minorities and stuff like that. Um so I don't know. Polyev is pretty cringy. I mean, he'd probably be better than Justo. Like as far as I go, I just want Justo gone. I don't like really care who replaces him. I just want him to to leave because he's just the like the worst. He's just, oh, let's see here. The budget will balance itself. What else is there? Oh yeah, some. Oh, his wife is from Venezuela. Okay, yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'm being too hard on him. Maybe I've been too hard on Polyev. Maybe like things will get better under him. Once again, if people. Oh wait, Maribel, what are you looking at? Are you looking at all the pictures of him? No, there's no term limits in Canada. People can be prime minister for any amount of time. So, Maribella, what are you seeing that makes you like confirm what I was saying about him being a cringe lord? Um, I don't know. Axe the Tax is really cringy. Costly coalition. Okay, so if he defunds the CBC, reverses Trudeau's internet hate speech law, and restores mandatory minimums, uh, I think that'll be pretty good. That'll be better than Justo. I'm just worried that he's going to increase immigration, to make himself like the proof that he's not racist. Justo actually cut immigration recently because of just how fucking bad it is. So I'm worried that they're just going to increase it even more. Then again, I don't know how they can increase it more. As I've said, I've started working at a different office for part of the week, and at that location, oh look at this cringe. Look at this cringe. Um, what was I thinking about? Celebration. Yeah, here we go. Here's all of them. Leuna. Jews tend to vote conservative, or more often vote conservative in Canada than I think in a lot of other countries. Um, they tend to actually vote that way. Indians, I think, also tend to vote conservative. But yeah, the other place where I went to, another place that I went to was, yeah, the other office. I literally about 40% plus don't speak fluent English. So I will just go to a meeting and just like it's just quiet because no one can understand each other. And for whatever reason, whenever you're talking about like Indians or whatever, I find they just mumble. They talk super quiet and mumble at the same time. And like I just can't understand them. But it's just a mess. I don't know. Anyways, guys, I gotta go. I need to get ready for bed. I have work. I have to tomorrow. I'll be heading back to Canada, back to Ontario to see my family. Probably be some videos there. Probably maybe some woods videos. We'll see how it goes. But God bless, guys.